Welcome to this free preview edition of the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. Today is Monday, October 12th, 2020. I'm Steven Jensen, and normally you'd hear me over at FightfulSelect.com talking about this stuff. Usually on the Weekender I'm talking Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NWA, Being the Elite, 205 Live, NXT UK. I mean, anything you possibly think of. I cover various shows on IndependentWrestling.tv. I'm covering various shows from Fight TV and just all over the place. And today, we're going to be doing a full review of GCW's Collective Weekend. Basically, 3 days and 12 shows. I watched every single one of them, and I am stoked to be talking about that with y'all today. As I mentioned, this would normally be available on FightfulSelect.com, but you don't just get my show over there. You get Alex Pulowski's Sour Graps, where he gives his honest and hilarious reviews of professional wrestling. You have the man, the Dong Lord himself, Sean Ross Sapp. He's on here giving the scoops, breaking news, doing extra podcasts, talking and interacting with fans in the comments during live shows. You got Jimmy Van. You got so much good stuff over there at Fightful Select, and it is the most direct way you can support Fightful. So please, if you enjoy this podcast or you're interested in any of the other things I've just mentioned, please check out FightfulSelect.com, and I'll make sure to remind you all of that throughout the episode. But that all being said, GCW's Collective Weekend, this was so much fun, y'all. I mean, for somebody like myself who has been following independent wrestling for as long as I have, and coming up on around 2 years or so of doing this Weekender podcast here at Fightful every single weekend, this is basically WrestleMania weekend for independent wrestling. And, of course, this was supposed to originally happen in Tampa over WrestleMania weekend, but we're getting it in October. Or I should say we got it in October because it's now over. And, I mean, just so much good stuff. As y'all will obviously realize as I'm going through the results and talking about the various talents throughout these shows, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of people that wrestled on more than one show, some that wrestled on more than half of the shows, some that almost wrestled on every single show. I'm going to definitely give you some MVPs for the weekend, some things that really stuck out to me, and I'm going to go through every single match for these 12 shows. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and waste y'all's entire day by breaking every single thing down step by step, but what I will do is make sure y'all know who won and lost every single match and my opinion on it. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into this because, man, this was so much fun. I do want to say right off the top before I jump into it, I guess, I want to mention, as a pro wrestling fan, I think we get very jaded, especially with the mainstream wrestling products. There's a lot of hate for the WWE, and understandably so. I totally get it. There's some people that, they don't like AEW, or they don't like Impact Wrestling. They don't pay attention to Ring of Honor. They have no interest in New Japan, whatever it is. There's a lot of people that complain about wrestling. And it's okay, it's fine to have your opinion. But there's people like me who for years were complaining about what the WWE was doing, and then realized, I was already, of course, aware of the independent scene, but once you really start digging deeper and see shows like what we saw over this past weekend, I think it's really eye-opening to a lot of fans because they can see, I don't really like what I'm seeing on Raw, but I still love wrestling, and there's all of this. And these guys are great, and these girls are great, and anything in between. I mean, there's, as we're going to talk about, not just men and women. We have, we have trans people. We have the LGBTQ plus community. We have so many different types of people from so many different backgrounds. Such an inclusive weekend of wrestling, and yeah, I just can't say enough good things about it. So maybe you're a little upset with what's going on the wrestling you normally watch, but I can pretty much guarantee you, out of these 12 shows, there's got to be something that you enjoy, and some people that you might want to, start following, some people you may not have been aware of that you now can become a fan of. Because the biggest enjoyment I get as a fan is, to be honest, selfishly, when a talent that I enjoy from the indies gets signed to AEW or NXT or really anywhere else, there's part of me that gets a little bummed out because I'm like, oh man, that was my guy, or that was my girl, or, it's and I just don't know how the WWE is going to use them, or, there's the unknown, but you're happy that they got that contract. And there's a lot of that this weekend because there's a lot of people that I know there's not going to be much time left for them on the indies because they are going to get signed. And some of these people that I'm going to be mentioning are signed to major companies already. So selfishly as a fan, I'm always a little bit bummed out to see them move on because I love the indie scene so much. But it's also super rewarding and such a great feeling when you see them make it. I mean, when you see somebody pop up on AEW television or NXT or WWE that you've seen wrestle for years in high school gyms and bars and, literal parks and stuff like that, just out in the open, basically backyard wrestling and stuff, and then you see them make it, it is such a great feeling. And I bring that up because there's a lot of people on the show in that boat, and there's a lot of people that I talk about on a weekly basis here on the Fightful Weekender podcast that I'm constantly saying, like, pay attention to these names because a lot of the people I'm highlighting you're going to be seeing on national television. So, with that all being said, let's jump into the first show. We had GCW's Jimmy Lloyd's Degeneration F. This kicked off the entire weekend. This was Friday afternoon. This was like 11 or 12 p.m. On Friday. It opened up with Braden Lee defeating Alex Ocean, Eli Isom, Alea Black, Sonico, Kung Fu Janela, and Griffin McCoy. Wound up getting the win with a 630 senton to Sonico. This was a great way to just kick off the weekend. This was just, they went hard as hell, 7-person scramble, and Braden Lee getting that win I liked a lot too. It really set the bar for the entire weekend. Like 7 people going out there, showing out, and basically saying, all right, y'all get ready because we got 11 more shows after this, plus the show that we're doing right now. Really great stuff. That led right into a 4-way tag team match where I'm Working on Dying, which is the team of Steve Sanders and Dylan McKay, defeated Top Flight, the team of Angel Dorado and Airwolf, as well as the team of the Smoking Buds, which consists of Cody and David Morton, and YNDB, the team of Ellis Taylor and Charlie Tiger. The finish came when McKay hit a shooting star senton onto Cody Morton. I'm very impressed with Sanders and McKay, both very talented and young guys. There's a super bright future for all of them. Airwolf and Dorado, the team of Top Flight, we're going to be talking about more throughout the weekend because they had quite a few pretty high-profile matches. The Smoking Buds, I was really happy to see in this one. I like Cody and David Morton a lot. I'm familiar with them mainly from like the Chattanooga area. They do stuff with I believe with like TWE and Crux and stuff like that in the Chattanooga area. I have some really good mutual friends with the Smoking Buds, and I hear nothing but great things about both those guys, and I've been paying attention to their matches very closely lately, and I think that they're a team that, because of their gimmick, it might be a little limiting. I'm just going to be honest about that. Like, on like a mainstream level, Smoking Buds, you kind of put 2 and 2 together, kind of what they're all about, but for the indies, it works great, and I'm a big fan personally, but that's really the only thing I think that's going to potentially hold them back going forward unless they tweak the gimmick just a little bit. But then again, you have like the Rascals that kind of do a similar type of thing with a lot of the 420 references, and they're on national TV. I guess you can call it that. I'm not sure what Access TV is considered, but I watch Impact Wrestling through Twitch, which anybody in the world can use, so there's that. And of course, we're going to talk about the Rascals more. And then, of course, the team of YDNB, great team as well. Just a really solid 4-way tag team match, and it was great to see McKay and Sanders get that win. Moving on, we had the one called Manders defeating Logan Stunt. He beat him with a top rope Oklahoma Stampede power slam through a door. So this match ruled. For those of you who might not be aware of Logan Stunt, he is the brother of Marco Stunt. They look very similar as far as like very similar heights, similar weights, similar looks. You can definitely tell that they're brothers just by looking at the two of them. I've been familiar with Logan for a while now, mainly through his work at Sapp in Nashville, which Sapp actually ran a show this same day, which I'm going to talk about very shortly, or very soon. I'm going to go in depth about it, but I'm going to talk about it here in just a second. And for those of you who've never seen Logan, he looks a lot like Marco, but he wrestles differently. He's way more grappling based. I actually think he has a much better offense than Marco. This is just me personally, and I'm a big Marco Stunt fan. He's one of those guys, as I was mentioning at the top of the show, he was a guy I watched for years just get the hell beat out of him. on the indies before finally kind of catching on. And then, of course, we see him on AEW on basically a weekly basis at this point. Just a perfect example of somebody that I watched go from literally jobbing out hard to everybody because of his size to becoming a pretty big deal on the indies to just completely blowing up and then to be on national television for AEW in the spot that he's in. That's one of those perfect examples of just a great feeling you get watching somebody make it. And Logan, I think his time will come. The only thing kind of pigeonholing him at the moment is basically because Marco has made it, and he basically is going to be perceived as like another version of Marco Stunt. But I think he could work really well in a tag team, which we're going to talk about a little bit more because they did have a tag team match over the weekend. But that all being said, I'm a big fan of Logan, and I'm a really big fan of the one called Manders, aka Steve Manders. He's tearing it up everywhere right now. He had possibly my favorite match of the entire year a couple months ago for Action Wrestling out of Tyrone, Georgia. Shout out to Action Wrestling. They didn't have a show over the collective weekend, but they're heavily involved with Southern Underground Pro and some of the other promotions that did run shows. But Action Wrestling, Manders had a match against Graham Bell. That was one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite match of 2020. Manders is wrestling all over the place. He's killing it, and he gets over with every crowd. And I really love the match, and the finish of the match especially. Basically, Manders gets Logan up on the top rope, and it's really hard to explain, but Manders has him up in a power slam. He's up on his shoulder, and he has to take an extra step to get to the top rope. He already has Logan on his shoulder, and he has to take one big step up from the middle rope to the top rope to jump off through the door, and he barely gets it. It by no means was any kind of botch, nothing like that. But it was a little sketch. It was like Manders pulled it off. He totally pulled it off, but he goes 1 inch the other direction, and that is a disaster. But I'm glad they pulled it off. And this was another one that really set the bar for Manders, especially because he was all over this weekend. Moving on, we had Trey Lamar defeating JJ Garrett. Got the win with the Froggy Bow, aka a frog splash elbow drop. Trey Lamar is another guy that we're going to be talking about quite a bit. He is super talented. He's another one of those guys where Trey Lamar, I've given this example before, and this is going to apply to a lot of people I talk about throughout this show. There is basically what I consider to be a totem pole or a hierarchy of independent wrestling talent. And it isn't necessarily based completely on talent as it is based on how close I think people are to getting signed to mainstream companies. So, for instance, there are people I'm going to talk about today. I'll just give you some examples right now. Someone like Matthew Justice or Mance Warner. There's a lot of them that are kind of in that boat. But those are two that come to mind immediately. Calvin Tankman is kind of already getting there, especially with his stuff upcoming with MLW. There's a lot of them. And when those people kind of move on from the indies to mainstream wrestling, it opens up spots for the next generation. And the next generation is looking incredible because I consider Trey Lamar to be one of the top people of that upcoming generation. So when people like Matthew Justice and Mance Warner, here's another perfect example, Kurt Stallion just got signed to the WWE. Josh Briggs just got signed to the WWE. I mean, those were two people that were in that level of the totem pole, in my opinion. And when that kind of stuff happens, it opens up spots. And I think Trey Lamar is somebody we're going to be seeing as a big deal on the indies going forward. And he's just super talented. And there's some other people I'm going to mention that I think are in that same boat as we move along throughout these shows. I just mentioned Calvin Tankman. He was in the next match defeating Cole Radrick. Gets the win with the hidden blade elbow, which is basically, I don't know if you've ever seen Will Ospreay do this similar type move where he basically swings his full body weight, forearm and elbow, just swings it to the back of his opponent's head while they're kind of kneeling down. It looks completely brutal. Like I mentioned, I think I've seen Ospreay do it first. I doubt he created the move. I just know that I've seen Ospreay do it first. And Tankman does it, and it just looks completely devastating. Cole Radrick, I have heard referred to, so shout out to Mouse, Robert Bellamy. who in my opinion is the best pro wrestling photographer in the world. His daughter is Billy Starks, who wrestled on a few of these shows also. I'm going to definitely talk about Billy. But I've heard Mouse talk about how Cole Radrick is the Charlie Conway of independent wrestling. For those of you who are familiar with the Mighty Ducks trilogy of movies from the 90s. And it's such an accurate way of explaining Cole Radrick in a very succinct way. Like, the guy is all heart, and he constantly improves, and he always has good matches, and he just looks very unassuming. Like, he wears very basic looking ring singlet, and I don't know how tall he is, but I mean, honestly, I can't imagine he's any taller than like 5'5", 5'6". Not big, doesn't look very athletic, and he goes out there and just shows up every single time. Like, he's a guy you look at and you're just like, oh, okay. And then you see him wrestle and you're like, oh, this guy freaking rules. And Cole Radrick had another big weekend. It started off once again with this loss to Calvin Tankman, but it was really good. This was a really good match. Both guys went hard as hell, and my hat's off to both of them. Calvin Tankman, like I said before, he's already on his way. He just recently got signed to MLW, and I think they're going to use him in a really big capacity. And Radrick, I think, is kind of same like Trey Lamar, kind of that next crop. Radrick's been around for a minute, but the best is yet to come still for Cole Radrick. Super talented. A guy who is a perfect example of just hard work. You know, you got to respect it. So, shout out to Cole Radrick and, of course, Calvin Tankman. We're going to be talking about both of them throughout this weekend. We had Jordan Oliver defeating Ace Austin with a clout cutter through a door in the next match. This is a big one for Jordan Oliver. It was a good match. Both guys flew all over the place. Of course, we're familiar with Ace Austin from his work in Impact Wrestling, and I talk about it all the time here on the Weekender for those of you who might be new listening to this free preview. But I was a big believer that Ace Austin should have won the title at Slammiversary, the Impact World Heavyweight Championship, in the Slammiversary main event. Now, I am very happy with where they're at with Eric Young as the champion. So don't get me wrong. I think where they wound up, it works really well. And I really like the feud with Rich Swann. Looking forward to their title match at Bound for Glory, which, by the way, I'll be recapping and reviewing right after the show on the Fightful YouTube channel. And I believe I'll be doing that along with Sean Ross Sapp. So that should be a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing those post shows. And yeah, that being said, Ace Austin, I think that he's incredibly talented. I think he's been kind of lost in the shuffle in Impact lately. Like, he's a part of the tag team with Madman Fulton, and they're getting a title shot in I think it's a 4-way match at Bound for Glory. So, like, he's involved, but I feel like he should be heavily spotlighted as one of the top singles wrestlers in the company. That's just my opinion. And I think Jordan Oliver getting this win here is a big nod of approval for Jordan Oliver, because he's just in a kind of a different spot. I think we're going to be seeing Oliver a lot more on the indie scene, and Austin a lot more with Impact Wrestling and other mainstream promotions going forward. So this really helps out the future of indie wrestling, and I love seeing Jordan Oliver get that win. Really good match. After that, we had AJ Gray defeating Jimmy Lloyd. The show is named after Jimmy Lloyd. The finish came with the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which, I mean, AJ Gray, it basically equates to AJ Gray just beating the hell out of people. I mean, going out there, throwing clotheslines, hitting just crazy power moves, and I mean, he does everything. I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way right now. I'll be talking about AJ Gray a lot throughout this show. He, in my opinion, was the MVP of the entire weekend. He, I think, had the most wins of anybody, at least off the top of my head from watching all these shows. My brain's a little bit scrambled, I have to be honest. I mean, like, I watched 12 shows in 3 days, and I watched almost all of them live as they were happening. Only had to go back and rewatch a few things today before recording. And AJ Gray went out there and absolutely killed it. I don't know what his overall record was for the collective. There was 12 shows, and he was on probably 9 or 10 of them. And I think he won all but like 1 or 2 of the matches. And one of those is the Clusterfuck, which is, you know, on Joe Janela Spring Break, which involves a ton of people, including, you know, invisible men and dolls and a whole bunch of that, inanimate objects and that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to count that as a loss. And I think he might have lost another one over the weekend, but it was like a multi-person match. But that all being said, and maybe it was just the Clusterfuck that he lost, to be honest. It might have just been that match. and I'll realize that as we go through the rest of these results, it'll come back to me exactly how that all went down. But AJ Gray beating Jimmy Lloyd here I liked a lot, especially because Jimmy Lloyd, he ran the show, but he didn't need this win. And this was just setting up a giant weekend for AJ Gray, who, once again, I'm a big fan of. I've been watching him live for a long time. I think it's great that he's finally getting, in my opinion, the kind of exposure and respect that he deserves from the wrestling scene, because he's always been really good, but he's really putting it all together right now. After that, we had Blake Christian defeating Starboy Charlie, beat him with an inverted Koji clutch. And this was just awesome. Starboy Charlie's only 17 years old. He is going to be a future star. He's already really damn good, but only 17. And Blake Christian is in the same kind of boat as someone like a Trey Lamar, in my opinion. Blake Christian, he's an interesting case, though, because I think Blake Christian is just kind of just leapfrog everything, and I honestly think he's just going to get signed really soon. He's the kind of guy where, he's so talented and so unique, has a different look to him, does everything really, really well, gets over everywhere he is, and he was really busy this weekend also. He had a ton of matches. And, yeah, I mean, Blake Christian, he's one of those guys, like I've been saying, kind of on that indie wrestling totem pole. He'd be kind of like that next group, of a few more people get signed, and then Blake Christian's going to be main eventing, everywhere. But I think that that's already kind of started to happen, really quickly. And I think the next thing we know, he's going to be popping up on, AEW or NXT or something. I think he's going to get signed. I really do. I think he's just too talented. He's young. He's really crisp in what he does. Reliable, willing to work his ass off. And yeah, I mean, he even said it himself, and I think it was after this match, actually, so this is perfect time to bring it up. Blake Christian did a speech right after this match, after he beat Starboy Charlie, and he basically said, he got on the microphone, basically said, hey, when certain guys left the indies, this is all going along with what I've been saying up to this point during this episode, basically said, a few years ago, when certain people left the indies and went off and got signed, people were saying it's okay because there's guys like Blake Christian, Ben Carter, and Alex Zane that are still here. And now we're starting to get to a point where Blake Christian, I think, will get signed soon. Ben Carter probably already is signed by AEW. I mean, he didn't work any of the collective weekend, and he's been showing up on AEW TV and had a really great match against Scorpio Sky on that really late AEW Dynamite special they did after NBA playoff game a few weeks ago. That match ruled. So I'd imagine Ben Carter is off the indie scene, or at least going to be way less involved because he'll be way more involved with AEW. Just my guess. And then you have Alex Zane, who has all the talent in the world and could very well get signed at any point also. So Blake Christian basically said there was the three of us, and as the three of us, surely eventually we'll move on, the indies are still going to be fine because Starboy Charlie's next up. And I think that was a great seal of approval for Starboy Charlie. And yeah, Blake Christian, just an incredible wrestler, and I'll be talking about him more throughout this, this episode of The Weekender as well. Last up on this show, we had the death match between Atticus Cogar and Colby Corino. The finish came when Cogar hit a thumbtack face plant on Colby Corino to get the win. Of course, Cogar had 440 by his side, and yeah, this was really good. I mean, I'm not huge on death matches, but, I did watch quite a few of them this weekend, and, it's great to see Colby Corino out there. I didn't realize until recently that he was actually a part of the Ugly Ducklings. The Ugly Ducklings are Rob Killjoy and, I don't know why I can't think of the other guy's name off the top of my head. They're a really good tag team, though. They do great with their merchandise. I've seen them live in Chattanooga, I believe for the Scenic City Invitational, one of their shows there in Chattanooga. But I've probably seen them live maybe 3 or 4 times now, just various spots. And I love their entrance, I love their gimmick, and like I said, their merch table is always just full of really cool stuff that I really respect the merch game for the Ugly Ducklings. And Colby Corino recently joined up with them to make it like a trio, which I thought was interesting because it kind of flew under no pun intended. It kind of flew under the radar, being ducklings and all. But it's cool to see Colby out there. I know he dealt with some pretty serious personal stuff. And the only reason I know that is because they constantly bring it up during his matches, but it's meant to build his character. And yeah, Atticus Cogar, you know, he's just one of these guys. He's really solid at what he does. I'm not huge on death matches, but he does a lot of them, and, you know, he wins a lot of them too. And being affiliated with 440, along with, you know, Ricky Shane Page and Eddie Only and Gregory Iron, who I think is just the best heel of all time. For those of you who don't know Gregory Iron, he has cerebral palsy, and I mean, you can see it while he's just, you know, you can just see it when you look at him, because he, and this isn't to be offensive, I have a long history of neurological issue in my family as well, very similar to cerebral palsy, so like, I'm by no means joking about this or making fun at all, but when you look at him, you can tell, because his wrist is like turned out kind of crooked, and when he does moves and stuff, you can tell he's using one arm versus the other and stuff. And as a baby face, which is what he was for the vast majority of his career, it's someone you can really, really get behind. You know, he's automatically sympathetic and somebody that you want to see succeed, because it's like, oh man, like, this guy's going through some stuff physically, but like, he's still out there living his dream. Like, it's a really inspirational thing to see. Gregory Irons as a heel is amazing to me, because all the things that I just said, you have to just like, you have to look at it and be like, wow, what a jerk. Like, you know what I mean? You look at it and you're just like, really? Like, you're going to be out here bullying people? Like, you got to imagine he's been dealing with bullying his entire life, or at least, you know, his childhood. I'm sure he got bullied for being different, as many of us are that I'm sure are listening to this. It sucks. It's the worst. I was bullied badly growing up. And but then to see him use that against himself as a heel, I think is just brilliant, because it's like, it's just one of those things that's so slimy to see, because it's like, oh man, like, I want to cheer for this guy so bad, because I know he's just been through stuff, and like, he's such an inspiration, but he's using it, instead of being inspirational, he's using it to be a jerk and bully and gang up on people. So I think as a heel, I think what Gregory Iron is doing is really, really smart. And I think it works really well. But that all to say, Atticus Cogar gets the win over Colby Carino. And for a death match, once again, not huge on death matches, but I enjoyed it. Gonna grab a little swig of water and jump into the next show here. So, up next, Southern Underground Pro. This is, I'm gonna throw it out there, I'm biased. I lived in Nashville for the last 10 years or so of my life. Recently moved to Atlanta, Georgia. But I will always have Southern Underground Pro in my heart. I was a fan of theirs from their very first show, watching them live in literal dive bars. And for those of you who don't know, about a year or so ago, there was really bad tornadoes in Nashville. And the Basement East, which is the venue that the Sapp has become synonymous with, it got blown away. And it was a historical venue in Nashville, not just for professional wrestling, but for music and a whole bunch of different stuff. And the Basement East got destroyed. And luckily, they're putting it back together, and it looks like we'll get wrestling there again eventually when things kind of get back to normal. But Supp's been through a lot this year. We've all been through a lot this year. I'm not gonna sit here and act like Southern Underground Pro is the only people that are dealing with issues this year. I trust me, I get it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with the world. There's a lot going on with the pandemic. There's a lot. It's been a crazy year for a lot of people. A really unfortunate year for a lot of people. So I want to throw that out there. I feel bad for anybody that's had to deal with stuff, but I just know firsthand, because I know so many people involved with Sup, to watch what they all had to go through this past year. This was just an amazing thing for all of them, and for me as a fan of the product. After 7 months off, for them to finally do another show, and it was right here at the Collective. I really enjoyed it. And I'm not biased in saying this. I read a lot of people tweeting about how they thought this was the best show of the entire weekend. Now, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to sound biased, but I feel like it definitely has to at least be in the conversation. I thought this show was incredible. It was great wrestling from top to bottom. You got different stuff in every match. and every match progressed the storyline. You can't ask for anything more than that out of a wrestling show. Started off with Violence is Forever, the tag team champions, Dominic Garrini and Kevin Koo, defeating To Infinity and Beyond, the team of Colin Delaney and Cheech Hernandez. The finish came with a basically the Chasing the Dragon, where Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish used to do the move a lot, where one puts up the opponent in a brainbuster, the other one kicks him in the head, and then drops him down for the brainbuster. Violence is Forever, so they retain their title, and I've been a fan of them since before they were even called that, by the way. I have a Sad Conf t-shirt from their original tag team name before they even became Violence is Forever. So that's how hardcore and long-time fan I am of a lot of these people. Like, there were some people that I saw trying to throw out, not necessarily aimed at me, but kind of like, oh, now everyone's getting on, AJ Gray's, everyone's finally now getting, giving him his respect and blah, 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 which I think is fair to a degree. But, like, I was rocking a Rich Homie Juice AJ Gray t-shirt, 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been on board with a lot of these guys for a long time, so this is all so cool to me to see all this. And it was also really cool to see that Southern Underground Pro finally has a set of tag team titles. For the longest time, Garrini and Koo, who have been the tag team champions for a long time now, they basically won a trophy, and they didn't have physical belts. And I know that Sapp, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit for y'all, because I know a lot of people involved with the shows. Sapp was very on the fence about even continuing as a company as of not that long ago. Like, they were really on the fence about it. But now I know they're committed. Like, they're running shows again, and they just invested in more tag team, or more, title belts, physical title belts. So that's a really good positive thumbs up for the future of the company there. Moving on, speaking of AJ Gray, just mentioned him. He defeated Nolan Edwards with a lariat, which, he just goes out there and he's just taking people's heads off with these lariats. He's hitting these Stan Hansen style lariats on people, and I think it's awesome. For those of you who may not be familiar with Nolan Edwards, he's another guy that I know out of the Chattanooga area. He recently won the Action Wrestling / Scenic City Invitational Futures Tournament, Futures Showcase. They just did that a couple weeks ago. And he's been popping up all over the place lately. Super talented guy. We'll be talking about him more when it comes to like Paradigm Pro, because he's been doing a lot of work there, and he worked more over the weekend. And this was just another big win for AJ Gray. But this is not the last we'll be talking about AJ, that's for sure. After that, we had Alley Cat defeating. I always have a tough time with her name. I always call her Davine, but I know that isn't correct. I think it's Davian. I think it's Davian. I think is actually how you pronounce it. This is a tough one for me to pronounce. I'm sorry, y'all. Alley Cat gets the win with the basically she hits her pussy pile driver, which is a pile driver, but obviously the play on words, her being Alley Cat. She hit it from the ropes. Really good stuff. Alley Cat is known as the heart and soul of Southern Underground Pro, and for good reason. She's really heavily involved in a lot of the shows and has great matches. And she's another one where like she's in that same top of the totem pole with those other people I mentioned before, where it's literally just a matter of time before Alley Cat is signed to national company. I mean, a company like AEW, I think, would benefit greatly from hiring someone like Alley Cat. People kind of talk crap on AEW's women division, and there's talented women out there on the indies, as we're gonna talk about a lot more of them coming up here in a little bit. But I mean, Alley Cat's super talented, and Davine, God, that's such a tough one for me. She did great, and I know that she was highly regarded coming into the match. I don't want to name drop certain people, but I know somebody really close to the booking side of Southern Underground Pro that lobbied really hard to get her into the company for this match against Alley Cat, and I'm glad they did, because I think the match was great. Speaking of another great match, and this is a match that just completely different style, it's so good. Daniel Makabe defeated Lee Moriarty, got the win with a Makabe lock. Okay, so Lee Moriarty, I'm going to say a few things real quick about him, because he's all over this weekend. Lee Moriarty is one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. He's somebody that I think we're for sure going to be seeing wrestling for the Ring of Honor Pure title at some point in the near future. After that tournament wraps up, he's a guy, same with Daniel Makabe. I think both of these guys are literal, I mean, it is perfect fits for Ring of Honor's pure division. I mean, you could not have two better people that most mainstream wrestling fans aren't going to know, that you can build as kind of homegrown guys as Lee Moriarty and Dana McCabe. They're I mean, just such a perfect fit. And Moriarty wrestled, I think he had the most matches of anyone this weekend. Maybe not as many as AJ Gray, but it's probably pretty close. My one knock with Moriarty, and I'll talk about it throughout, he loses too much. That's my one knock on Moriarty. And it wasn't just this weekend. I've been watching him wrestle for a while now. Like, he's been around for a while, but like, I'd say probably the last 3 to 6 months, I've been paying a lot more attention to Moriarty. He's been wrestling all over the place and having these great matches, but he almost always loses. And it's one of these things where, like, yeah, it feels great when he gets a win, which I'll be talking about in a little bit here, but that's just my one thing. Like, he's so good, and commentary is constantly putting him over as, you know, they literally say the best technical or, you know, they basically say, like, a lot of people regard him as the best wrestler in the world. And I think that claim is a lot more valid if he wins more often. But I'm going to get more into that because there's some seeds that were planted on a later show that give me hope that that's going to be turning around soon for him. McCabe, on the other hand, this was his first match, I think, like, all year. Like, I think he's been pretty much taking all this time off during the pandemic. And he's a guy who had a lot of momentum, especially last year, coming off of the Scenic City Invitational tournament win that he had. He won the entire thing in 2019, and it was incredible. McCabe is super talented, and I'll be honest, I'm really surprised we didn't see a lot more of him this weekend. I don't know if that was because of him only taking, you know, a small number of bookings and just kind of getting back into it. I don't know what the case was, but I hope the case wasn't that people just weren't booking him, because you could put Dana McCabe on any wrestling show and it immediately adds credibility and variety to your show. And I can say the same about Lee Moriarty. Like, this match I thought was awesome. I would love to see some sort of best out of 7 series type scenario for these two guys. Just watch them keep going at it. Really, really enjoyed this match. Thought it was incredible. There were certain things that happened in this where, like, Dana McCabe went out of his kind of safety zone and hit a top rope Frankensteiner where, like, almost didn't make it all the way, but because it was so close, it wound up looking incredible. I mean, they were doing just awesome stuff in there. Love this match. Moving on, we had O'Shea Edwards defeating Jake Something. Got the one with the Kaiju driver. This is a big one for O'Shea Edwards. O'Shea, somebody that, if y'all aren't familiar with him, he's done some work fairly recently with Ring of Honor, mainly through their dojo. I don't know if he's going to be brought on to TV anytime soon, but he definitely should be. And if not with Ring of Honor, somewhere else. I mean, I think he fits like a glove in Impact Wrestling. I think he would do great in a company like AEW as well. He'd do great anywhere he goes. But I just see something like Impact Wrestling, him immediately becoming like a top person at Impact. And I say that because, you know, Jake Something is a part of Impact. He's also known as Cousin Jake. And Jake Something is also the Black Label Pro Heavyweight Champion. I mean, he's been the Glory Pro Heavyweight Champion. He is one of the top guys on the indies. And O'Shea Edwards getting that win, I thought was a big deal for him, and it looked really good. I loved O'Shea Edwards' entrance gear. I love his intensity. And he's going to hate me saying this. If he ever listens to it, he's going to hate me saying it. Because I know him personally a little bit. I've interviewed him. I've interviewed a lot of the people over this weekend. But O'Shea is somebody I just need to highlight and just say, he's a really, really nice guy. Like, outside of the ring, he's a really nice guy. He probably hates when people say that because he's such an intimidating presence when it comes to professional wrestling. But he's a guy that I really pull for because he really is just a really nice guy. And I'm really happy to see him get these big opportunities. And he deserves them. It isn't just because I think he's a nice guy. Like, he checks every box you can possibly imagine. He's intimidating. He's big. He's athletic. He does really good moves. He has a cool move set. I mean, like, he has cool entrance gear, everything. Checks every single box. Charismatic as hell. Just huge shout out to O'Shea Edwards. And huge shout out to Jake Something, who I'll be talking about more throughout the show as well. After that, we had Anthony Henry taking on Jaden Newman. Got the win via Dragon Sleeper submission. And this was cool because this was a rematch from years back. So those of you who might not know, Jaden Newman is currently only like 20 or so years old. And he started wrestling around the age of 15. Another guy that I had the opportunity of interviewing a while back. And he's somebody that when he wrestled Anthony Henry the first time, so I'll peel the curtain back even more, there's a company called TWE out of Chattanooga, and Jaden Newman helps book those shows. And Jaden brought in Anthony Henry years back to wrestle him, and he thought he was ready for Anthony Henry. And apparently he wasn't, and Anthony Henry beat the living hell out of him, like for real, in the ring, and like left him there. As basically a way of saying, you're just not on the level of booking me against you at this point. As brutal as it sounds, that's where it was. This match was really good. Jaden Newman earns Anthony Henry's respect, has a great competitive match, and afterwards, after Henry beats him with just a devastating looking dragon sleeper, he gives him his endorsement. And that was huge. That was huge for us as fans who know the story in the background. It was huge for Jaden Newman finally getting that stamp of approval. And I'll say this now as well. Anthony Henry, I tweeted this, and it got a lot of people talking. I'll basically say what I said in the tweet. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody else on any of these other shows, anyone else in the world who is not currently signed. But the fact that Anthony Henry is not signed to a nationally televised wrestling promotion is absolutely baffling to me. Absolutely baffling. It doesn't make any sense. Like, part of me wants to think, like, he must just be the biggest pain in the ass ever to work with, like, behind the scenes. That's all I can think of. But I know that isn't true. Because I know people who have booked him and work with him. And it's a unanimous, same thing as I'm saying. Everyone just doesn't, no one gets it. Just no one understands it. I mean, he's 5'10", which isn't quote-unquote too small anymore. He does an awesome hybrid style of mixed martial arts and professional wrestling. He works body parts. I mean, he can tag team wrestle. I mean, his work with JD Drake as the Workhorseman, one of the best tag teams in the last decade. Like, he does it all. And it's just mind-blowing to me that he is not signed to a larger company with more exposure. And I know that he's recently been talking about retiring more often, but I have to imagine that has to do with the fact that he's, not getting some of these opportunities. He's probably like, all right, well, there's nothing more I can do. I need to move on with my life. And it's got to be discouraging is the right word, for other wrestlers who might consider Anthony Henry to be way better than them, and they're seeing him not getting opportunities, and they're like, well, if he's not getting opportunities, I never will. And it's got to be just discouraging. So, huge shout out to Anthony Henry. He had more matches this weekend we'll talk about, but he's just super talented. Moving on, we had Brett Ison defeating Eric Stevens. Got a win with his new finisher, the ripcord basically the ripcord spinning back fist. Really, really like this. Eric Stevens actually retired at the end of the night last night, which I'll talk about towards the end of the show. And Ison getting this win is huge. He's the longest running Southern Underground Pro Bone Storm champion in history, which is basically the Sapp equivalent of a heavyweight title. And he's the first person I think of when I think of the company. He's, in my opinion, the face of Sapp. And he's represented the brand all over the world. Really good guy. Another dude, of course. Like, I don't want to keep just saying another guy I've had the opportunity to interview. I mean, I could say that about so many of the people on these shows. But he's somebody that, like, I stay in contact with. We have some really good mutual friends, and me and him stay in direct contact about stuff fairly often. I'm a big Brett Ison guy. And yeah, seeing him get that win over Eric Stevens was great. Well-deserved. More credibility towards Brett Ison. And like I mentioned before, awesome to see him using a new finishing move. I really dig it. After that, we had the main event. AC Mack, the Bone Storm champion, defeating One Called Manders. Basically kicks him in the dick and does a schoolboy roll-up to get the win. AC Mack, just the chicken SHIT heel, just doing this all the time. He's also the current Action Wrestling champion, holding those two belts for the company in Atlanta as well as the company in Nashville. And it looks like the show's going to be over right there. AC Mack doing this again like he has been doing. I mean, for like the last year or so, he's been the champion. And every time he wrestles, it's something like this. Gets his ass kicked and does something underhanded and gets a win. And right when you think the show's over and that's it, AJ Gray comes out and challenges AC Mack. AC Mack attacks him right away, and it looks like it's going to be quick work for AC. AJ Gray knocks him the F out with a brutal lariat. 1, 2, 3, and AJ Gray wins another match for this weekend and is the new Southern Underground Pro Bone Storm champion. Absolutely loved it. Amazing, amazing stuff. Just another feather in the cap of AJ Gray for the weekend, and I love seeing him as the Sapp champion. He's another one of those guys, similar to Bright Ison. When I think about Sapp, like if there are 4 pillars of Southern Underground Pro, like how there are in New Japan, I think Brett Ison and AJ Gray definitely are 2 of those 4 pillars for sure. Moving on, we had AIW Thunder in Indianapolis. This show is absolutely insane. Started off with Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham defeating Zach Thomas, Derek Dillinger, and Pretty Boy Smooth get the win with a sit-out twist powerbomb. It was cool seeing this because, like, Derek Dillinger, I haven't seen much work of as Derek Dillinger. I know him as Derek Direction. He used to be in a tag team called The Production with Eddie Only, and Eddie Only is now doing his thing with 440, and Dillinger's doing his own thing now, and he brought Ziggy Haim with him to ringside. Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham gets the win. For those of you who might not be aware or familiar with him, he's a very interesting character. He usually comes out with basically life strategy and self-help guru type pamphlets. And yeah, just really interesting. He comes out and he talks on the microphone and really gets the crowd riled up against him. And Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham actually gets the surprise win. And his finisher is nice. That sit-out twisting powerbomb is really solid. So big win for Dr. Daniel C. in that opening match. After that, we had Danhausen defeating Mordecai with a victory roll. And yes, you heard me correctly. That is the Mordecai. Kevin Fertig, a.k.a. Kevin Thorne. I'm just going to be dead honest. This match was not it for me. It was a comedy match, but it was really more so about getting Mordecai's real estate information out there, it seemed like. They really plugged a lot for, hit him up if you need to sell your house kind of stuff. So this just really wasn't for me. I'm just going to be honest. Danhausen, I think, is a really entertaining guy, and he has a really big fan base, and he's been getting a lot of work in Ring of Honor lately, so all credit to Danhausen, who I'll talk about more throughout this weekend. But yeah, this against Mordecai, it just wasn't it for me. So, but it was cool. Like I will admit, because I completely forgot that Mordecai was on the show going into it. So to see him come out for his match, it was like, oh damn, it's Mordecai. All right, kind of like, all right, let's do this. And the matchup on paper made sense. It just wasn't for me when it went down. After that, we had Eric Stevens defeating Dominic Garrini. Got the win with a knockout forearm. And this was interesting because Eric Stevens and Dominic Garrini are both a part of Team Filthy, along with Tom Lawler, as well as Kevin Koo. So this was a solid match. Eric Stevens gets the win. And it was good to see him get this too because, with him retiring at the end of the weekend, I didn't want to see him lose all of his matches. And him beating Garrini, I think, totally made sense. After that, the Bitcoin Boys, the team of Mikey Montgomery and Eric Taylor, defeated Alley Cat and Levi Everett. Got the win with a drop kick and DVD combo. Another really good match. Bitcoin Boys, a team to keep your eyes on. Alley Cat, I talked about her a little bit earlier. Just super solid women's wrestler. Solid wrestler in general, but specifically when you're talking about women's wrestling, I think that, like I said, she really deserves a spot somewhere, getting more eyes on her. And Levi Everett, very interesting character as well. I mean, he's this Amish character, but he looks very unassuming and very oh, just this good old Amish boy. And then he does really heelish stuff with a pickaxe and he has this temper about him, which brings layers to his character that I think are really entertaining. So good stuff there. Bitcoin Boys getting the victory. After that, Trey Lamar defeated Alex Shelley and Lee Moriarty. Got the win with a froggy bow. Another just fantastic match. This is the first time we're seeing Alex Shelley this weekend. Of course, he is part of the Tag Team Champions in Impact Wrestling along with Chris Sabin. And just incredibly solid wrestler. He's been doing great stuff with Black Label Pro lately as well. That is Alex Shelley. Lee Moriarty I just talked about earlier. I mean, just just incredible technical wrestler. And Trey Lamar I also talked about, and this is just another stamp of approval for him. He's the future of independent wrestling. I mean, this is a huge victory, getting a win over Alex Shelley and Lee Moriarty clean with that froggy bow, 1, 2, 3. And his froggy bow is very impressive, by the way. He gets a lot of height on it, and he drops that elbow. I'm a stickler for elbow drops. My favorite wrestling move of all time is Randy Savage's flying elbow. So I'm very nitpicky when it comes to elbow drops. And I think Trey Lamar's got a really good one. So another big win for Trey Lamar for the weekend. After that, Mance Warner defeated Mr. Brickster, got the win with a chair platform pile driver. This was a little strange because they're trying to turn Mr. Brickster heel, but he comes off really more so as like goofy. But he's another guy. I know Brickster really well personally. Of all the people on any of these shows, I probably know Brickster the best personally. He lived very close to me when I lived in Nashville. And so I was happy to see him on this show because he's all over this weekend, but mainly as like a commentator, like a guest commentator, or doing like security and stuff like that. So for him to get this match, I really liked seeing it. But yeah, I'll just say Mance Warner, I've mentioned it before, like he's gonna get signed. I just don't know when or where, but like he's just completely killing it right now. His character's incredible. His matches are incredible. He mixes this old school with the new school with, his love for old WCW and like this Southern gimmick and lariats and light beers and this whole thing. I love the concoction that Mance Warner has made himself. And Brickster, I'm a fan of his. I think he really, really, really wants to succeed in wrestling, and he works his ass off. It's just going to take a while. It's just that simple. Like, he's had a couple opportunities that just didn't pan out for him, and I think it discouraged him a little bit. But now I think he's back to working hard and trying to make his dreams come true and doing more in wrestling. And I thought this was a good match, and I think Mance Warner was the right person to win. After that, we had Filthy Tom Lawler defeating the Karate Man via the 5 steps of death, which is basically a heart punch. This was incredible. So this is built almost like a Mortal Kombat match where Filthy Tom Lawler basically like it's really hard to explain without watching it. He came out as like the stereotypical like American badass type fighter, and the Karate Man is Ethan Page, dressed up kind of like Ryu or however you say it from Street Fighter. And they did a whole lot of really cool martial arts stuff. And the finish came when the Karate Man was going for the crane kick, and Tom Lawler heart punched him and basically grabbed his heart out of his chest to get the finish, which I thought it was really, really good. It was something different, and it totally worked. After that, we had a 2 out of 3 falls AIW Tag Team title match where the Philly Marino Express defeated To Infinity and Beyond. Got the win with a roll-up in Sunset Dreams. Good match. Philly Marino Express, underrated tag team. They work kind of all over the place, but you don't hear their names that often, so it was good to see them get this win here. To Infinity and Beyond, I didn't mention before, Colin Delaney's a part of that team. A lot of y'all might remember him from his work in WWECW. If you remember back in the day, so it was that long ago already, but he was that young, kind of gangly kid, Colin Delaney, and he's still out there, doing it on the indies, so props to him. And in the main event of this show, we had Joshua Bishop, along with Wes Barkley, defeating Matthew Justice, who had Bill Alfonso, of ECW fame, the former manager of Rob Van Dam and Sabu, out there with Matthew Justice. Josh Bishop gets the win and becomes the new AIW World Champion. He beat him by climbing up to the top of a ladder and dropping basically just a giant chair shot to Matthew Justice's head. This match was incredible. I mentioned Matthew Justice already a few times. I think he's literally just a matter of time before he gets signed somewhere. He's checks every box. And he also has like that mix of like crazy along with everything. Like he's willing to just do anything. Now, all the unprotected chair shots to the head, a little suspect, a little concerning, but if he can get past all that and doesn't have to do it his whole career, he could have a really, really great career, I think. And Josh Bishop he's the future. It's that simple. He's 23 years old. The first time I interviewed him, he was like 5 matches into his career, and to see where he is now is just, oh my gosh. It's so great to see. He has the size, the look. He's got that little bit of crazy also. He's got a lot of bit of crazy, actually, to be fair. He does everything really well, and he's constantly improving. And Wes Barkley as his manager / tag team partner, like I like Barkley better as his manager personally. There's so much they can do with that, and I love seeing Josh Bishop become the new AIW champion. So huge victory for Bishop. Awesome match. This is one of those matches that I would definitely recommend everyone check out from this weekend. All right, before we move on to more results, we have day 2 and day 3. I want to remind everybody once again, FightfulSelect.com is where you normally hear me doing this show. Over there, I'm always talking Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NWA, 205 Live, NXT UK, Being the Elite. I mean, they're missing other stuff. I mean, various things on independentwrestling.tv. A lot of the people that we're talking about this weekend for these shows are people that I'm talking about on a weekly basis. And like I said, it isn't just my podcast. You get Alex Pulaski's Sour Graps, you get scoops and extra podcasts and fan interaction with Sean Ross Sapp, you get stuff from Jimmy Van, you get a whole bunch of just amazing stuff for a very low price, and it also is the best way to directly support Fightful.com. So make sure to jump over there, check out Fightful Select. If you're liking what you're hearing right now, I guarantee you, at the very least, you'll like listening to my show, and then on top of that, you have so much more stuff, just such a great value for your money. So once again, please check that out, FightfulSelect.com, and support us over at Fightful. So moving on, we have the last show of night 1, which was For the Culture, basically highlighting black wrestling. And I know a lot of people think that this was one of, if not the best overall shows of the entire weekend, and I agree. I thought this show was absolutely incredible. Started off with Mike Outlaw getting a win over Timmy Lou Retton, AC Mack, and Zay Washington, and Hoodfoot. Gets the win with the Yakuza kick. And this was a big win for Mike Outlaw. He's somebody I know from his work in Glory Pro Wrestling, done a lot of stuff with hashtag No New Friends when they were a stable, which was the team of Mike Outlaw, Danny Adams, and KLD, aka Kevin Lee Davidson. I tweeted about this a little bit over the weekend. I think that Mike Outlaw is somebody to definitely keep your eyes on in 2021. He's somebody that I've been a fan of for a while, but he's really putting it all together right now. He's putting on more size. He's getting better in the ring. He's got a different confidence about him, I feel, and I really enjoyed it. And also someone in this match that I want to highlight, Hoodfoot. He's a guy that we're going to be talking about more. Hoodfoot, a.k.a. Mo Atlas. Unique dude, unique look, unique gimmick, and just a heavy as hell hitter. So big shout out to Mike Outlaw, though, for getting the win in the opener of For the Culture. After that, we had JTG defeating Trey Miguel, gets the win with the Brooklyn's Edge. And yes, that is JTG, the same JTG that you remember from WWE's Crime Time back in the day. And also, rest in peace to Shad Gaspard, who tragically lost his life, I guess it was already last year, maybe earlier this year. It's all been such a blur lately. But just an incredibly selfless act. He essentially saved his kid's life and gave up his own in a really terrible situation, drowned, just awful. And it was great to see JTG out there because it reminded me of Shad, and JTG looked great. And it's really funny because like JTG was considered a small person in the WWE, but he's considered, like, he looks bigger than like everyone on all these shows. So it's wild how that has kind of flipped in recent years, like the size of the wrestlers in general. But JTG getting the big win, and of course we all know Trey Miguel from his work with the Rascals and all the stuff he does with Impact Wrestling. And yeah, big win for JTG, and JTG and Trey Miguel looked great in there. After that, the team of 40 Acres, which was PB Smooth and Trey Lamar, defeated Top Flight, the team of Angel Dorado and Airwolf, as well as Culture Season, the team of Christian Casanova and Tasha Steeles, and the finish came with the Fireman's Carry Bomb to Casanova. Another win here for Trey Lamar in this tag team along with PB Smooth. PB, I think, is all right. He got a lot of size, that's for sure. He's pretty good at what he does, but I think Trey Lamar is ultra talented. I've been talking about him a lot already. I mentioned Top Flight earlier. this is another match they got, and they had a busy weekend and had a lot of really good matches. Tasha Steelz, I want to give a shout out to her. I think she's very, very talented, underrated. They could be doing more with her in various companies that she's involved with. So, yeah, good, another just solid tag team match, and another big win for Trey Lamar for the weekend. This one I'm going to have a hard time with pronouncing the name of the belt probably, but I'm going to do my best. We had the Pan-African World Diaspora Wrestling Championship. Trish Adora defeated Shug D by submission. This was a really big match. The crowd was super into this. Trish Adora is very talented. She's another one of those women where you see her and you're kind of like, okay, like people complain about AEW's women's division. Where's someone like Trish Adora? Maybe it's like Impact Wrestling. They got a pretty damn good women's division, but they lost Tessa, even though she was wrestling, men and women. They just brought on Emma, Tennille Dashwood. They have Jordan Grace. They have Deonna Purrazzo, of course, their champion. They could add Trish Adora and add another layer to that division. Trish Adora would fit anywhere, and I think that her match with Shug D was really good. And I think Shug D is doing a great thing right now at putting so many people over on the indies, while also getting his wins himself. But people might know Shug D as Pineapple Pete from AEW, so put two and two together there if maybe you weren't familiar. But yeah, Trish Adora, really impressive win over Shug D. After that, a match that I loved, we had Calvin Tankman defeating O'Shea Edwards, got them with a Tenzin driver. I talked about both these guys earlier, and this is where you're going to start noticing there's going to be quite a bit of overlap probably going forward on the shows. So I'm not going to go as in depth because I've already kind of explained who these people are. So I'll talk a little bit more about just kind of the results going forward. Unless there's people that I haven't talked about, I'll make sure to try to highlight as many people as I can. But Tankman over O'Shea Edwards totally made sense. Great match. And I just want the world for both guys. I want both guys to just be the most successful they can possibly be. Great match from both. After that, we had Willie Nightingale defeating Devin Monroe, Faye Jackson, and Marty Bell. Got the win with the Doctor's Bomb on Monroe. I like the Doctor's Bomb. Always like that move. Willow Nightingale, I'm most familiar with Willow from their work in, I believe it's, what's the company that normally, Beyond Wrestling, I think is mainly where I've seen Nightingale wrestle. And it's cool to see Faye Jackson in there. Shout out to Faye Jackson. She did some wrestling for Sapp. Had a feud, basically her and Stokely Hathaway, who is now known as Malcolm Bivens in NXT. The two of them had a feud against Mr. Brickster, who I talked about earlier, in Sapp a couple years ago. And one of the most entertaining feuds I remember in recent memory. It was really great. So shout out to Faye Jackson as well. But Willow Nightingale getting the win. After that, we had AJ Gray defeating Desmond Xavier. Got the win with a lariat. Incredible match. Desmond Xavier, also part of the Rascals, of course, along with Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. AJ Gray with another win for the weekend. This was technically his fourth match of the day. Well, no. How many shows there were 4 shows. So this was his 5th match because you got to count. I think he wrestled I think I mentioned AJ Gray every show on this day, plus, the win for the Sapp Bone Storm title, which has got to count as another match too. So just MVP. Just incredible day for AJ Gray. Incredible weekend for AJ Gray. Great match with him and Desmond Xavier. And part of what I thought was kind of cool about this was when AJ Gray was coming out to his Waka Flocka theme song, Desmond Xavier was dancing around and singing to it, rapping to it, while AJ Gray was coming out. So everyone was out here just having a good time. And like I said, it was for the culture. This was just a big celebration of black wrestling. And it was not just black wrestling, all wrestling, but you know what I mean. This was meant to heavily highlight black talent. And I think that it's a great idea that they did this, because basically the idea is there's a lot of really great black, African American, however you want to word it, talent out there. And they don't always get chances to perform because they're just kind of overlooked, or maybe they get pigeonholed in certain roles. And this gave so many people a chance to shine. Just amazing. Loved it. After that, another match I loved. Lee Moriarty defeated ACH with a mousetrap. And this was Lee Moriarty's only win of the weekend. Now, I mentioned it before. He loses too often. But he got this big win over ACH, which I think counts for a lot because ACH is on a roll right now. He's got a lot of buzz about him, especially after leaving the WWE, especially the way that things went down between him and the company. ACH is out there doing great things on the indies again, and Lee Moriarty getting the win over ACH is a giant stamp of approval in my opinion. So huge win for Moriarty. After that, we had AR Fox defeating Too Cold Scorpio with a 450 splash in the main event. This match ruled. Too Cold Scorpio, absolute legend. AR Fox used Too Cold's own move, the 450 splash, to get the win. Too Cold did all his stuff. I mean, he was doing like the backflip leg drops. I don't think he hit the tumbleweed, but he might have went for it. He was doing just everything. I mean, Too Cold Scorpio looked like he was ready to go with any wrestler in the world, in any company in the world. He killed it out there, and AR Fox deserves a ton of credit too. A lot of people might know him as Dante Fox from Lucha Underground. He's been killing it on the indies for a long time. He's considered basically like a mentor and OG at this point to the indie scene. And to see AR Fox get the win over a legend like Too Cold Scorpio in the main event of this historic show, amazing stuff. Amazing show, amazing day of wrestling there. And it was all capped off once again by AR Fox defeating the legend Too Cold Scorpio. Moving on, we got day 2 coming up. And like I mentioned just a minute ago, we'll go a little bit faster when it comes to kind of the rest of these shows because there's going to be, once again, a lot of overlap with talent. Started off, well, I should name the show first. So the first show we had of day 2 was Effy's Big Gay Brunch, which was essentially made to highlight the LGBTQ plus community. I apologize if I missed any letters or anything there. I'm doing my best. I consider myself an ally. You know, like I don't want to get political and I don't want, anything to be taken the wrong way or out of context. I am, personally, I'm very pro gay marriage. I'm very pro, living your life how you want to live it. And I think this show really highlights that because there's a lot of very unique talents on this show and a lot of talents that maybe don't get a lot of opportunities because of who they are. And this really, this was a lot of fun. It really was. Show started off with the Sea Stars, the team of Delmy Exo and Ashley Vox defeating the team of Ashton Starr and AC Mack. Got the win with the elevated Tumbleweed Senton. After that, Still Life with Apricots and Pears, which, if you've never seen Still Life, I know of Still Life through Chikara, and I can't remember where else I've seen them, but completely unexplainable. Not even going to attempt to explain it. Got the win over Dark Sheik with the figure four leg lock. After that, the Second Gear Crew, one of my favorite stables in all professional wrestling, Mance Warner, Matthew Justice, Manders, and Levi Everett, defeated the BGB All-Stars, which was MV Young, Billy Dixon, O'Shea Edwards, and Joshua Warva. Just another really good match, and it's just great to see Warner, Justice, Manders, and Everett as a team. I think the Second Gear Crew, it's because they also, there's more members, like Effy's with them and stuff. And I'll talk about them a little bit more, probably a little bit later, but I love this, and yeah, there's not really much more I can say. It was a really good, eight person tag match. Just really good stuff. Second Gear Crew gets the win. After that, Jamie Senegal defeated Alley Cat, got the win with the springboard facebuster onto a chair. That was brutal. Alley Cat takes another L, but it was fine to see Jamie get the win here, and just more representation, all for it. After that, we had the Twink Gauntlet, where Devin Monroe defeated Jimmy Lloyd, Dylan McKay, Jared Edwards, Logan Stunt, Pero, Tyler Klein, Calvin Couture, Tony Deppen, Juicy Jimmy, Molly McCoy, Sean Henderson, Marcus Mathers, Kid Osborne, and there was a lot of unnamed twinks, able to say that. Devin Monroe gets the win. Pero, I think, was the most impressive in this match. Personally, I'm a fan of Pero. I saw him wrestle for the first time live at NWA 70 in Nashville, and I think he presents something different. He's a big dude, a lot of power, and somebody that, I'll just be honest, the first time I saw him wrestle, I didn't know he was gay. Not that really matters one way or another to someone like me. It's fine either way with me. But I really respected the fact that, I saw him wrestle, and then I saw him on Twitter, because I found him on Twitter, and I was like, oh, he's gay. Like, he's talking about his boyfriend and, like, pictures of him and he's in love and all, and it's like, this is refreshing. Like, this guy, not to say that others don't, but he was one of the first that I really saw in wrestling, like, really embracing it and just not caring what other people thought about it. And I thought it was great. I'm a big fan of Pero as a person and as a wrestler, so big shout out to Pero as well. And it was a big weekend for Devin Monroe. He had another win a little bit later in the weekend as well. We had the next match, Too Hot for TV. So Effy, who put the show on, he wrestled who was billed as the ultimate twink, Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt of AEW fame. Surprise appearance, wrestled Effy here. I cannot even describe a lot of the things that happened in this match. I'll just let y'all watch it. A lot of really wild stuff went down in this one, and Marco Stunt gets the win over Effy. And huge shout out to Effy for putting this show on and for being himself too. He's another one of those guys similar to Pero. He's out there just waving the flag, and you know, as somebody like myself who's heterosexual, it doesn't bother me one bit. You know what I mean? Like, I like that Effy's out there being himself, and I think that him being himself allows others to be comfortable being themselves. And I think that's what's the most important message in all of it. And in the main event, we had Cassandro defeating Sonny Kiss. Got the top rope victory roll for the 1-2-3. I thought Sonny Kiss looked really good in this match. Cassandro looked good as well. Just, you know, a bit on the older side, let's just be honest. But a legitimate veteran and pioneer amongst this community in particular. And I'll give Sonny Kiss all the credit in the world. And I'm going to call Sonny Kiss, I'll refer to her as she, because Sonny actually is fine with either. Sonny says she or him, so like, I'm not being disrespectful. Just got to pick one or the other. I'll just say she. But I think that she's been looking really, really good lately, especially since joining AEW. Her matches have been really good. Her moves have been crisp. I've really liked what I've seen out of Sonny Kiss lately, and I think that her and Cassandro had a really good match to finish up this show. So great stuff. Effy's Big Gay Brunch representing out there, so all for it. Moving on, we had Glory Pro Wrestling's Are You Wrestling Son? Started off with Mike Outlaw defeating Lee Moriarty. I've talked about both these guys at length. Mike Outlaw, just keep your eyes out for him. Big win over Moriarty, and I think he's going to have a really big 2021. And I mentioned it before, Moriarty taking another loss. Too many losses, but another really, really good match. Outlaw getting the win. After that, the North, the team of Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, defeated Blake Christian and Alex Zane. This match ruled. The North, in my opinion, are the best tag team in the world for any company. I think that Ethan Page and Josh Alexander have the best array of tag team offense. I think that their run as Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions was really underrated and flew really under the radar. And I think that they're two incredible wrestlers. I think that Ethan Page and Josh Alexander could be ultra successful as singles wrestlers and or as tag team wrestlers. Incredibly versatile. Blake Christian and Alex Zane, I talked about both of them a little bit before. They're both on that they're on that kind of that tippy top. Like they're killing it. They're going out there and just having insane matches and doing insane stuff and doing it really, really well. And I thought this match was absolutely awesome. This is another one of those that I'd say go out of your way to check out, because you get a good mix of two of, in my opinion, the best wrestlers in the world currently versus two of the future best wrestlers in the world in Blake Christian and Alex Zane. After that, we had Hakeem Zane, spelled differently, Z-A-N-E versus Alex Zane, Z-A-Y-N-E, for anyone who cares. Hakeem Zane defeated Kylie Ray, got the win with the kill switch, and this was cool. I mean, Hakeem Zane, for those of you who might not know, he is also known as Rakit Raju. He is the X Division champion in Impact Wrestling, and he's got all these belts right now. This was for the Midwest Territory Championship. He's killing it. I'm very happy for him. He's another guy I've known for a long time because of Glory Pro Wrestling, and it was great to see him highlighted here on the Glory Pro show over the collective weekend. After that, we had Warhorse defeating Zachary Wentz. Got the one with a sharpshooter while he was headbanging. Thought it was cool. Did not expect the submission finish, but I like seeing Warhorse using that in his arsenal. It gives him a little bit of diversity. I like seeing wrestlers who have multiple finishing moves, or multiple signature moves that could end matches, and then like that one overall finisher that always ends it. I think that's really smart. I think guys like AJ Styles, for instance, do that really well. He has all those different moves he can finish you with. I like Warhorse doing that too. At this point, Warhorse has the double stomp, which could finish you. The flying elbow drop can finish you, and the sharpshooter can finish you. Oh, and he also has a sick lariat that finishes people too. So, and then Zachary Wentz, of course, a part of the Rascals, incredible worker, has a really great kind of MMA-based style, but he also does high flying and a little bit of everything. That was really good, and great to see Warhorse getting another win and another. I think this puts him at like 40-something title defenses, the Independent Wrestling.tv Championship. So awesome stuff there. After that, we had more awesome stuff. One called Manders defeating Jake something. It was Jake something defeating Manders in the bull rope match. Really, 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 really good stuff. I tweeted this out at both guys afterwards. I want to see them just go at it and beat the hell out of each other over and over again. There was so much crazy stuff in this match. They went through tables and doors, and Jake something's finisher looked just brutal when he hit him with that black hole slam, and they used the cowbell, and just really great stuff. I would be fine with watching those two wrestle each other 10 times in a row for the next few months. Like, loved it. After that, we had the Sisters of Destruction, the team of Elena Black. I don't know why I have such a hard time with her name too. Elena Black and Blair Onyx defeating Hyen and Laney Luck. Got someone with a sister Abigail, essentially. Another good match. I mean, Sisters of Destruction, impressive. I think we're going to be seeing more of them. And they're the kind of team that I think would really be beneficial in a mainstream company, like in NXT or a WWE, for instance. Like, they'd be great for women's tag team divisions. After that, Devin Monroe defeated Cody Lane, Jody Threat, and Stephen Wolf in a scramble match. Another good match and another big win for Devin Monroe. I mentioned that he had won the Twink Battle Royal in the Effy's Big Gay Brunch show, and another big win here. I like seeing Stephen Wolf on the show. I think this is the only time he wrestled all weekend, and he's a guy who's constantly improving, that has a ton of talent, and he's just kind of waiting for the right opportunity, I think. And Jody Threat and Cody Lane, two great talents as well there, so big win, really, really big win. I didn't expect Devin Monroe to get the win. I really thought Stephen Wolf was going to get this. And Devin Monroe with a surprising win there, but a big day for Devin. After that, the United Glory tag titles were on the line. Top Flight defeated Satanic Panic and Alley Cat and Dan the Dad, and they become the new tag team champions. Top Flight, been talking about them before, think that they're doing great stuff, and they get this big win. They had lost all the other matches up to this point in the weekend. Satanic Panic consists of Danhausen and Effy, by the way. Interesting and really fun kind of tag team and friendship that they've got there. Great stuff. Top Flight are the new champions. Really good match. And in the main event of this show, AJ Gray is back. He comes out and he beats ACH. He retains his Crown and Glory title, which is essentially the Glory Pro Heavyweight Championship. Gets the win with the Blue Eyes, White Dragon, 1, 2, 3. Basically hit him with a bunch of lariats, and then the White Dragon is, how do I explain it? It's like a snowplow, kind of, probably like what Al Snow used to do. I believe that's probably the most similar type move to it. Brutal stuff. And ACH takes another L, but in a really impressive match, and another win. This is another one for AJ Gray. I mean, up to this point, has not lost one match over the collective weekend. I can't say it enough. MVP of the weekend. After that, we had the highly anticipated Joey Janela's Spring Break 4. This was absolutely insane, this whole show. I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people complain about the length of the show, but in my opinion, it was right on brand. Like, this is what you expect out of a Joey Janela show. You expect it to either start late or end late, or, you know, the clusterfuck's going to go, like, super long. And I think this was all on brand, and I enjoyed the show. Show started off with Ricky Shane Page, who is the GCW Heavyweight Champion. He does an open challenge. Eventually, the open challenge is answered by Orange Cassidy. There was no title on the line, but Orange Cassidy gets the win. The place went completely insane, and you can tell they're setting up something in the future between Ricky Shane Page and Orange Cassidy, unless it was just a one-off for Orange Cassidy to get a big pop, because it doesn't really hurt RSP either, because Orange Cassidy, you know, he just beat Chris Jericho twice. I mean, you know, taking a loss to Orange Cassidy right now is totally fine. And this was a lot of fun. It was a fun match, and the crowd was going nuts. After that, we had the team of Iron Beast defeating the Rascals. I didn't know much about Iron Beast. They're two singles wrestlers who are now tag teaming. thought it was a solid match, and getting a win over the Rascals is always a big deal, so shout out to Iron Beast. After that, Jonathan Gresham defeating Lee Moriarty, got a win when he basically was hitting hammer fists when he had an octopus hold on Lee Moriarty. Another loss for Moriarty, but this was to Jonathan Gresham, who, in my opinion, is the best technical wrestler in the world. He's who I think should win the ROH Pure title tournament, and I would love to see the two of these guys run it back for that Ring of Honor Pure title in the near future if Gresham indeed wins it. This is incredible stuff. This was another one of those like can't miss matches. Another one where like you have to see this one from this weekend. Incredible stuff by both. Huge fan of Jonathan Gresham and Lee Moriarty, both of those guys. After that, we had Team Pazuzu, the team of Chris Dickinson, Santana, and Ortiz defeating Alex Zane, Blake Christian, and Jordan Oliver. Another just really fun matchup. Zane, Christian, and Oliver are completely insane. Some of the three best high flyers on the independent scene. It was great to see Team Pazuzu back. That's Chris Dickinson, along with Santana and Ortiz, who we've been seeing a lot lately on AEW, and a lot on Impact Wrestling prior to that. They used to be known as EYFBO, just fun fact for you, when they were on the indies, that is Santana and Ortiz. It was good to see the three of them getting that win. This was a great match, and Pazuzu reunited, really cool to see. After that, Tony Deppen defeated Alex Shelley by pinfall. Tony Deppen, a guy who didn't get as highlighted as I probably would have liked him to over the weekend, because he's super talented, and he's also a part of the Ring of Honor Pure title tournament. Him getting this win over Alex Shelley, I think, was smart. I really liked that booking decision. Shelley doesn't need a win over Deppen, but Deppen could really use that win over Shelley, and I think it was great. I thought the match was a lot of fun, and I thought, once again, Deppen getting that win I thought was the right call. After that, Leo Rush defeated ACH. Another L for ACH. A lot of losses for him this weekend, but a lot of awesome matches. Leo Rush completely killed it. He's still one of the best wrestlers in the world, especially when you're talking strictly in-ring work, but he's damn good on the microphone also. Don't know how or why things ended up the way they did between Leo Rush and the WWE, but Leo Rush, I feel like Leo Rush has got to be going to AEW soon. I just don't see any other scenario. Like, he's just too good. Speaking of too good, we had Ricky Morton defeating Joey Janela with an inverted figure four lock. This was one of the best matches of the weekend, and I'm not just saying that. Like, this match was absolutely incredible. Ricky Morton can still go better than a lot of the current wrestlers. And I know Ricky Morton stays active, but he's like, I think he was 64 years old. Joey Janela went out there and made him look like $1 million. This match was just totally awesome. The crowd loved it. Morton was hitting just crazy moves, and I mean, I would watch this again 100. It's one of those things where, like, you don't want to see it again because like it was so magical and worked so good. You don't want to see it. Don't want to see them try to outdo that. But like, this match was so awesome. Another one of those highly recommended matches. Up next, we have the Clusterfuck. This match went like over an hour. I was totally fine with it because I expected it. I'm not going to go through all of this. Spider-Nate Webb entered first, won the whole thing. I would recommend just checking it out because there's so much crazy stuff and so many unexpected people and just random stuff throughout these matches. I think it's just fun to watch as a fan. Just go into it, just not taking it seriously. Okay? Just go into it just to have fun. Spider-Nate Webb gets the win. And in the main event, in Matt Tremont's final GCW match, Alex Colon defeats Matt Tremont. Basically, he takes a rake, and he had light tubes attached to every piece of the rake, so there was probably like 8 or so of them in this thing, and he just swings it and just bashes Tremont in the head. It looked absolutely brutal. Once again, deathmatch wrestling isn't really my thing per se, but I mean, a good send-off for Tremont, because even though I'm not the biggest Matt Tremont fan, I respect what he's done, and I respect the fact that he has a very large fan base, and he's been doing this stuff for a long-ass time. And, you know, just to be fair and transparent and honest about it, I think Matt Tremont covers up his lack of athleticism and wrestling ability with the deathmatch stuff. And he does that, and I think for him, it works tremendously. Like, I think that, because I'll just be honest, I don't think you could have Matt Tremont out there having these, you know, you're not going to get him versus like Jonathan Gresham in like some technical masterpiece. But Matt Tremont can go out there and beat the hell out of people and take light tubes and glass and just do crazy stuff that other people aren't willing to do. and he carved out a hell of a career for himself doing it. So all the respect in the world for what he does. And while it isn't my cup of tea, once again, per se, I respect it. And Alex Colon basically was given the torch during that match. So, big victory. And then the last match of night 2 the last show of night 2, we had Freelance Undergrounds. I don't think we're in Chicago anymore. Started off with Isaiah Velasquez defeating Lee Moriarty. So once again, another L for Moriarty. Got the one with the double underhook pile driver. This totally makes sense though, because Velasquez is Freelance's boy. Like he is being heavily pushed by Freelance, and he should be. Like he's a really big part of the company. Impressive win for Velasquez there over Moriarty. After that, Warhausen, the team of Warhorse and Danhausen, defeated the Brothers of Funstruction, the team of Ruffo and Yabo the Clown. This was a little web redemption. There during the Joe Janela Spring Break show, there was confetti guys for. This was for the next match. Let me get to that on the next match. I was thinking I confused Yabo and Frank the Clown for a second. We're gonna get into that in a second. This match itself, though, Warhorse and Danhausen, totally expected him to get this win. Good match. The finish came by a DQ, but good stuff. And Warhorse, I'm always down to watch Warhorse wrestle. The next match we had Robert Ego Anthony along with Frank the Clown defeating Effy. Got the one with the Mandalorian driver. This was for the Freelance Legacy title. And Frank the Clown, which was I was talking a second ago, during Janela Spring Break, there's a dude who accidentally shot himself in the nuts with a confetti blower, and he got a web redemption during this match. So check that out. It's gone viral. Really funny stuff. Robert Anthony getting the win here. I'm fine with it. Personally, bigger fan of Effy, just me personally. But I respect Ego Anthony, and I also think that Frank the Clown is an incredible heel. Like, he really gets a lot of heat. So, big win and title change for Robert Ego Anthony. After that, we had a Freelance Scramble match. Blake Christian defeated Storm Grayson, Elia Black, Alex Zane, August Matthews, and Davey Bang. So I've been talking about him a lot. Another big win for Blake Christian. A huge win here. And he was just heavily spotlighted over the weekend. Incredible talent. Blake Christian with the W. The FU Independent Championship on the line. Lady Luck defeated Faye Jackson. Got the one with the Unicutter. Lady Luck, this was the second time I believe she had wrestled over the weekend. And it was an impressive win here over Faye Jackson. Shane Mercer defeated Ethan Page and Colby Carino. And basically it was a World's Strongest Slam. It was like a World's Strongest Slam moonsault from the second rope. Shane Mercer does a great job of mixing up his athleticism and high flying, along with the fact that he's just this jacked muscle dude, and presents something different. He's unique, entertaining to watch. Ethan Page and Colby Carino have talked about at length already on this show, but Shane Mercer getting the big nod in that one. And in the main event, we had Kylie Ray defeating Josh Alexander. Got the one with a crossface after a really good match. Really great technical match. Alexander always looks like $1 million. Kylie Ray is one of the best wrestlers in the world, male or female. I have no problem with Kylie Ray getting this win, and I thought it was a really, really great way to close out night 2. All right, we're coming up on day 3. But before I do, once again, if you want to hear this, along with Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NWA, 205 Live, IndependentWrestling.tv stuff, everything, Fightful Select Weekender is where to listen to the show every weekend, along with everything you get from Alex Pulowski, Sean Ross Sapp, Jimmy Van, and everybody else involved. It is the most direct way to support Fightful, is over there at FightfulSelect.com. Going into night 3, day 3, I should say, Black Label Pros, Threat Level Noon. Started off with Alex Shelley defeating Anthony Henry. Got him with an inside cradle. Incredible match. I really want to see these two go at it again. I don't know how much longer Anthony Henry's going to wrestle. I hope he doesn't retire anytime soon, but he's been talking about it. But this match was really, really, really good. Alex Shelley with the win. After that, Josh Alexander defeats Layla Hirsch with a spinning tombstone. Brutal finisher, great match. Layla Hirsch is a very, very, what's the right word? Talented. We'll say that. Very talented wrestler. A little under the radar, but somebody that I think is going to make it really big in a major company very soon. I think Layla Hirsch is very, very good. And Josh Alexander with the big win there. The stunt doubles, the team of Marco Stunt and Logan Stunt defeated Satanic Panic, the team of Effy and Danhausen. What I liked about this match, too, is Marco and Logan fought each other, like they turned on each other. Marco turned on Logan, I should say, at Janela's spring break the night before, and that hostility carried over into this match, even though they won and they were a tag team. I think there's being more seeds planted for a big singles match between the two. They've wrestled singles matches in the past, but Marco's obviously a lot more known than he was then at this point, and Logan's still trying to make a name for himself, or a bigger name for himself, I should say. But yeah, good win for the stunt doubles over Gatanic Panic. After that, we had the bad mother effer scramble. AJ Gray defeating Big Beef, Jody Threat, Matthew Justice, Levi Everett, Josh Bishop, and Colin Delaney. Got the win with a lariat. Brain scrambled, apparently. Got a win with a big lariat. Got the win over Everett. This match ruled. Everyone in this match is awesome. This was the first time we'd seen Big Beef all weekend, I believe, and he's another guy that I see him all the time in like the Atlanta area. Really talented, Atlanta, Chattanooga type areas. I've talked about everyone else that's a part of this match already at this point. And another big win for AJ Gray over some really heavy hitters. I mean, especially having like Big Beef, Matthew Justice, and Josh Bishop in there. Getting that win's a big deal. After that, Killer Kelly defeated Killer Billy Starks. This was Billy Starks getting a last-minute replacement call. Killer Kelly was supposed to wrestle Kylie Ray, and Kylie Ray wasn't able to make it. I don't know if it was because of her match with Josh Alexander the night before. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning. But Billy Starks, who, by the way, is only, I think, 15 years old, incredible wrestler. She worked a few different matches over the weekend. She was in the clusterfuck at Janela Spring Break. She was in this match, and then she was in a match on the last show that we'll talk about here in just a second. Shout out to Mouse. Shout out to Billy Starks. And I'm glad that she's okay. She took a pretty big spill yesterday, and she went to the ER, and it sounds like she's all right. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Billy Starks. I think she's going to be the best wrestler in the world within the next handful of years, and she's already so good at the age of 15. It's insane. And Killer Kelly, I think, is awesome also. I think she's great at Bloodsport, and I think she's another one that she should be getting more mainstream exposure. So Killer Kelly with the win over Billy Starks. We had Top Flight, who had won the BLP tag team titles earlier in the day. It's all starting to mix together now. But Top Flight, another big win for them over Team Filthy, the team of Tom Lawler and Eric Stevens. Got the one with the fold-up knee strike, got the pin on Stevens. Another just solid tag team match, exactly what you would expect. Filthy Tom Lawler was one of the best MMA fighters in the UFC, like in the light heavyweight division when he left the company. There was a lot of crazy circumstances around that with USADA violations and getting fired after, and John Jones being able to fight with basically the same thing and yada yada. But I'm a big fan of Filthy Tom, and it was great to see Top Flight get the win over Lawler and Stevens. After that, Violence is Forever, the team of Kevin Q and Dominic Graney defeated the besties in the world to become the Black Label Pro Tag Team Champions. Oh, sorry, I meant Glory Pro, not Black Label Pro when I'm talking about Top Flight, by the way. Sorry about that. Got confused. But yeah, Black Label Pro Tag Team titles. So now Graney and Q hold the BLP and the Sapp Tag Team titles simultaneously, and they're also currently signed to MLW. So a lot of big stuff going on for Kevin Q and Dominic Graney. And besties in the world, Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett. One of my favorite entrances of pro wrestling. Shout out to Savage Garden. Been a fan of them for a long time. Saw them first in Glory Pro Wrestling years back. And I think Vega and Fitchett as the besties, they haven't even they're already huge on the indies, but like I think that they haven't even begun to peak. Like they'll be a nationally televised tag team in I feel like the near future. Super talented. After that, we had a number one contender match where Blake Christian defeated Alex Zane, Ethan Page, and JD Drake. Got the one with the inverted Koji clutch. Just another huge win for Blake Christian over incredible talents like Alex Zane, Ethan Page, and JD Drake. Huge clash of styles in this one, and a huge win for Blake Christian. Huge weekend for Blake Christian. And in the main event, the Black Label Pro champion Jake Something defeated the IWTV champion Warhorse. Only the Black Label Pro title was on the line during this. Earlier in the weekend, Warhorse's IWTV championship had been stolen, and we found out that Gary J had stolen it. He distracted Warhorse during this match, and allowing Jake Something to get the win over Warhorse. Gary J, for those of you who don't know, is Warhorse's longtime rival on the indies, and the two of them have just been going to absolute war for years, and it looks like that's going to continue for the IWTV title, and I am all for it. After that, we had Shimmer's Volume 118 at the Collective. Started off with Nevaeh defeating Kenzie Page with a driving DDT. Great stuff there. I like Nevaeh a lot. I like Kenzie Page a lot. This was good stuff. And I'll just say it right off the bat. I think that the majority of the people in this match should get signed. There's so much talent on this Shimmer show. I really like diving DDTs also. I'll throw that out there. After that, we had a sensational scramble, which Alex Crawley defeated Aliyah Black, Queen Amanita, Jody Threat, Big Mama, and Brittany Blake got the win with a European clutch, so big win for Alex Crawley. After that, Heather Monroe defeated Layla Hirsch, got the win with the underhanded tactics, hit a eye poke, and got a roll-up for the 1-2-3. I think both of these women are super talented. I've already talked about Layla Hirsch a little bit. I can echo the same stuff about Heather Monroe. The Killer Bay Heather Monroe, I think that we'll be seeing a lot more of her in the near future. After that, we had the Bird and the Bee, the team of Willow Nightingale and Solo Darling, who I know I've definitely seen tag team many times in Beyond Wrestling. Defeated the team of Sierra and Kayla Cassidy. Got the win with the Hertz Donut finisher on Cassidy. And another big win for Willow Nightingale and Solo Darling. I feel like they should have won this match, and they did. It was good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, Lacey Ryan defeated Davian. This was probably my favorite match of the whole night. I think Lacey Ryan has a ton of potential. She came into this match as kind of a relatively unknown and got what I would consider a really big upset win over Davian. Lacey Ryan, she needs to get signed yesterday. She's super talented with so much upside. After that, the Heart of Shimmer Championship, High End defeated Thunder Kitty. Cool to see Thunder Kitty as a part of this. She was a part of Janela Spring Break as well. She's been wrestling forever, and High End getting the win. Kind of a passing the torch type situation, so all about that. Zoe Sky defeated Holodead with the Swirly Stomp, so big win for Zoe Sky here on this show. Just bigger, more powerful for Holodead, but then basically essentially what happened is Zai got the hell beat out of her and outlasted it and got the win. So a big showing of heart from Zoe Sky. After that, the Shimmer Tag Team titles on the line. The Sea Stars defeated the Hex, got the win with Flopping Fish in a really good tag team match. I'd like to see all of these women, Delmi Exo, Ashley Vox, Allison Kay, and Marty Bell more featured. I think Allison Kay and Marty Bell probably a little more well known, but maybe not, maybe just to me, but all four super talented women. And in the main event, Kimberly defeated Nicole Savoy with a Kim Tom Bomb. This was a great match. This totally deserved to main event the show. Kimberly, obviously, she's like a legend of women's wrestling on the indies at this point, I would say. And, we're seeing her more often on Impact Wrestling. Nicole Savoy, super talented as well. And this was a great main event for a great all-women show that, like I said, I think a lot, if not all of those women should get signed. There's a lot of talent there. After that, we have Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which I very much look forward to every year. Simon Grimm, the former Simon Gotch from the WWE from the Vaudevillains, defeated Matt Mikowski with a half and half suplex. I think this was good because Simon Grimm is always talking about his kind of catch wrestling background and all that kind of stuff, and he was able to show it here, which I thought was a good look for him. There was a women's tournament, the first round. Allison Kay defeated Killer Kelly with a head scissors choke. Thought this was really good too, and I was kind of surprised to see Allison Kay get the win. I kind of thought that Killer Kelly was going to win going into it, so big win for Allison Kay. Another women's match in the tournament, Lindsay Snow defeated Layla Hirsch with a heel hook. Really, really, really good one. It was a pretty fast match. It ended pretty quickly, and that just goes to show you, in Bloodsport matches, it's also it's treated similar to MMA. You just get caught with something, and that's that. Up next, we had Calvin Tankman defeating Alexander James. Got the win with a knockout elbow. Calvin Tankman's just the man. He does great in regular matches. He does great in these types of matches, UWFI rules matches, whatever situation he's thrown into, he does absolutely incredible. And, the man did a standing shooting star press over the weekend, Calvin Tankman. He's humongous, and he's going for shooting star presses. I mean, super, super talented. A big win for Calvin Tankman, a big weekend for Calvin Tankman. Eric Hammer defeated Call Jake in the next match with a double wrist lock, aka Kimura. Just some solid shoot style fighting right there. Filthy Tom Lawler defeated Homicide in the next match with a leg lock. Really enjoyed this. It was cool to see Homicide as a part of this show. Just an absolute indie legend, one of the first ever Ring of Honor heavyweight champions. And it made sense that Lawler won, given his background. Thought it was a really entertaining match. Really, really enjoyed it. After that, Davey Boy Smith Jr. defeated Josh Alexander. Got the one with the knockout with a Liger Bomb, which I thought was a cool kind of twist, because there's no pinfalls in Bloodsport. And Davey Boy Smith Jr. hit a Liger Bomb, but because he hit it with such force, Josh Alexander was knocked out, deemed unconscious, and Davey Boy Smith got the knockout win. Thought it was great. Thought Davey Boy Smith Jr. looked great. And I want to see more of him in the States. Like, I know he's been doing a lot of stuff with, like, Japan, and he does a lot of MMA stuff. Like, I want to see him in the States more often. Like, he's changed and gotten a lot better since his days as D.H. Smith in the WWE, in my opinion. After that, the women's tournament finals, Lindsay Snow defeated Allison Kay, got the one with the heel hook. Big win for Lindsay Snow. She's badass. She deserves the win. I mean, all these women are, but I totally fine with Lindsay Snow, and this is the most exposure I've seen her get personally. Like, I was less familiar with Lindsay Snow than all the other women on this show, and I came out of it like, oh, hell yeah, like, Lindsay Snow is badass, which is, I think, the exact goal of what you're doing with a match like that. So, big tournament win for Lindsay Snow. Got the one with the heel hook out of nowhere. And the main event, Jon Moxley defeated Chris Dickinson. Got a one with his Bulldog choke. Just amazing stuff. I mean, Chris Dickinson is one of those guys where you feel really bad for him, because he, like, had this WrestleMania weekend happened, like, in Tampa with all those fans and all the eyes on him, Dickinson probably would have gotten signed to a major promotion, like, immediately after. And I think he's still going to get signed soon. It's just kind of prolonged a few things, the pandemic and all. And I thought his match with Moxley ruled. I thought this whole thing was just incredible. Great main event. Great way to close out Bloodsport. And just incredible to see that Jon Moxley, like, this is the definition of doing it for the love of the game. Like, Moxley doesn't have to do these shows. He's doing it because he wants to. And he wants to give back to independent wrestling. And AEW is awesome for allowing him to do this stuff as their world champion. In New Japan as the IWGP United States champion. Incredible stuff. Incredible show. Incredible card, really. I mean, and Moxley getting that win over Dickinson, exactly how it should have been. Great all the way around. And the weekend closed out with Paradigm Strapsole. Started off with Shug D defeating O'Shea Edwards with a cross arm breaker. Really great match. O'Shea Edwards gave Shug D some massive props after the win. After Shug D's win, and he actually gave him part of his entrance gear as like a trophy, basically. Really cool stuff. And Shug D needed the win. O'Shea Edwards, I would like to see O'Shea get the win, but that's probably just me being a little biased, to be honest. I like Shug D. I love O'Shea Edwards, and this was a great match to start off the show. After that, there was a dead man's fight for the Midwest Territory Championship. Chase Holiday defeated Sonico. Got him with a spinning back fist in a competitive, hard-hitting fight. After that, we had a Naptown Elimination Scramble where Billy Starks defeated Freddie Hudson, Darren Dillinger, Miles Morales, Adam Slade, Zay Washington, Braden Lee, Sean Kemp, Juicy Fino. Juicy Fino, from what I understand, he just like started showing up at shows and eventually they started using him, which for any aspiring wrestlers out there, that's the way to do it. If you're not booked, show up and help. I think that's how Juicy's been getting a lot of these opportunities lately, from what I understand. Freddie Hudson I'm familiar with from, what's the company? Not Paradigm, I don't think. I can't remember. I know Freddie Hudson, though. He's really talented. And he's like the top guy of, I wish I could remember which company it was. But I've been watching him a lot more lately. Billy Starks, I've talked about her. She took a scary dive during this match and wound up in the ER, had to get some staples, but she's fine now from what we understand. And it was really cool to see Billy Starks get that win. I mean, humongous win to cap off the weekend for her. Really, really big. After that, we had UWF Fire Rules match where Dominic Green defeated Kevin Koo with a triangle armbar. This is Violence is Forever against each other. This made sense that Greeny would win. Greeny's the one with an actual, blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's the one who's known for this grappling style. Kevin Koo, valiant effort, but Greeny getting the win totally made sense. After that, another UWFI rules match, Flash Thompson defeating Cole Radrick. This one was really quick. Radrick was injured from previous match, and Flash Thompson exposed that, put him in a knee bar pretty much immediately to force the tap. After that, we had another UWFI grudge fight. This was Eric Stevens' final match. Hoodfoot defeats Eric Stevens. Basically just beats the hell out of him with ground and pound to get the ref stoppage. After the match, Eric Stevens leaves his boots in the ring, and he is officially retired from professional wrestling. So huge shout out to Eric Stevens for an incredible career. He did a lot of stuff in Ring of Honor, especially in the early days. He took like a decade off wrestling, came back not too long ago, did a great job, and that's that. But big shout out to Eric Stevens, and big shout out to Hoodfoot Mo Atlas for getting that big win, and he's been looking really impressive. After that, we had a heavy hitters title street fight where Bobby Beverly retained against Alex Colon. This was a crazy match. A lot of really good stuff. Colon was screwed out of the win a bunch of different times. Eventually, Beverly kicked him in the face with a bunch of light tubes, and it looked absolutely brutal. The kick looked like it hit him right in the face, too, on top of all the shattering light bulbs. So, crazy match and a great finish there. After that, we had the Paradigm Tag Team titles on the line. 6-man tag team death match. The Rejects defeated Earl's Picks. The people involved in this match were Akira, Reed Bentley, John Wayne Murdoch taking on Nolan Edwards, Juicy Jimmy, and Hardway Heater. Finish came with the Judd Nelson driver through a flaming table onto Nolan Edwards, which was brutal. Absolutely crazy match, and the finish ruled. There was a lot of fire on that table. It looked great. And in the main event, which was the last show of the collective, we had a Clockwork Orange House of Fun death match. The Ravens creation from back in the day, where we had Bradley Prescott IV defeating Matthew Justice, got a win with a second rope pile driver through a trash can. I love Bradley Prescott. He's the natty daddy. I love Natural Light. I love seeing him do his thing. He's getting better and better, and he's going to be all over the place soon. He's already doing great stuff in Paradigm and Sapp and SCI and a whole bunch of other places. Keep your eyes out for Bradley Prescott IV and the Lost Boys, his stable, which Hoodfoot is a part of. And Matthew Justice, like I keep saying, he's the man. He's going to get signed. He's insane. He's super good. And to see Bradley Prescott get the win was a nice surprise and a great way to cap off an incredibly amazing weekend of professional wrestling. So that's that. I know it's a lot. Normally my show runs about an hour long, but we had 12 shows to talk about, and I wanted to go in depth and give everybody the best shout outs and the best reviews I possibly could in a reasonable amount of time. So thank y'all for checking this out. If you want more of this, make sure to subscribe to Fightful Select. That is the place for the Fightful Select Weekender. That is the place for Sean Ross Sapp's Scoops. That's the place for multiple podcasts, including Alice Pulaski's Sour Graps. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. FightfulSelect.com. You can follow me on Twitter at FightTalk_, FIGHTTALK_. I've been Steven Jensen. Until next weekend, enjoy some professional wrestling. 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 Enjoy some professional